My family always measured success in decibels. Not the sound of a cheering crowd, but the booming, aggressive volume of their own laughter, especially when it was directed at me. They were the kind of people who saw opportunity not as something to be built, but as something to be inherited, polished, and paraded. They drove German cars, wore Swiss watches, and summered on the Mediterranean, never missing an opportunity to remind me, the outlier, that my life choices were quaint. I chose craftsmanship over commerce, old things over new, and a quiet, unassuming life over the high society circus they embraced. This all came to a head at the annual Summer Kickoff Party, a compulsory gathering designed less for enjoyment and more for competitive material flexing. It started innocently enough, with Uncle Robert announcing his purchase of a new beachfront villa, swiftly followed by my cousin Veronica, detailing her recent engagement, complete with a 5-carat rock that probably required its own zip code. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and thinly veiled disdain. My mother, bless her heart, kept shooting me panicked glances, willing me to say anything that would prevent us from being completely swallowed by the silence surrounding my own recent successes. The problem was, I didn't have any recent successes they would acknowledge. My latest achievement was painstakingly restoring an antique roll-top desk, a piece of art that they would dismiss as junk. Finally, my father, in a voice lubricated by 3 glasses of single malt scotch, clapped me on the shoulder, the gesture more patronizing than affectionate. "And what about you, Mark? You've been awfully quiet. Finally bought that condo you were looking at?" The whole table paused. You could hear the clink of silverware being placed down, ready for the main event, my public humiliation. I smiled, a genuine, slow smile that, for the first time in years, didn't feel forced. "Actually, Dad, I decided against the condo. I bought something much bigger." This piqued their interest. Bigger? Maybe I hadn't failed entirely. Maybe I was finally joining their ranks. Veronica leaned in, her diamond catching the afternoon light. "A business? An investment property?" "No," I said, drawing out the suspense just slightly. "I bought a boat." A collective gasp, then a moment of stunned silence, and then the decibels. The laughter started low, a few nervous chuckles, but quickly escalated into the familiar booming roar that had haunted my childhood. Aunt Eleanor practically choked on her Sauvignon Blanc. My father's face was a mask of incredulous amusement. "A boat? Mark, darling, a boat? What did you buy? A dinghy for a fishing trip?" Veronica, always the most cutting, wiped a tear from her eye. "Oh, Mark, you truly are predictable. Did you buy one of those tiny sailboats? Are you going to be the family's new nautical nuisance?" I let them have their moment. Their laughter was a wave, but this time I wasn't drowning. I was floating above it. "It's a gift," I announced, the simple statement cutting through their mirth like a steel knife. "For the family. Something big enough for all of us, something that represents a shared future." This paused the laughter again. "A gift? For them?" They exchanged confused yet greedy looks. They were already calculating its worth. My father, regaining his composure, cleared his throat. "Well, Mark, that's unexpectedly generous. What kind of boat is it?" I pulled out my phone, not to show them a pristine brochure, but a series of photos. "It's a 30-foot Chris-Craft Constellation, built in 1968. I found it in a salvage yard down near the docks." The reaction was immediate and priceless. The color drained from my mother's face. My father squinted at the screen, his hand instinctively reaching for his reading glasses. The photos I showed them weren't flattering. They were honest. The Constellation was a wreck. The mahogany hull was gray and peeling, the cabin windows were clouded with mildew, and the interior looked like a set from a horror film, complete with rusted fixtures and water damage. In one photo, a massive tarp covered a section of the flybridge where the entire structure had collapsed. It was, objectively, a derelict piece of forgotten wood. "Oh my God," Veronica whispered, not with appreciation, but with genuine horror. "It's scrap. It's an absolute joke." Uncle Robert, the family's self-proclaimed financial guru, was the first to find his voice, which was now tight with mockery. "A shared future, Mark? You bought us a floating pile of termite food? What did you pay for this antique?" $15,000, I stated plainly. The sound of the number was immediately followed by another wave of laughter, this one fueled by outright derision. $15,000 for what they clearly saw as a tax write-off in the shape of a boat. My father threw his head back, laughing so hard he had to grab the edge of the table. "You bought us work, Mark, a project, a lesson in humility, perhaps?" He shook his head, the pity in his eyes almost worse than the mockery. "Just sell it for parts, son. Cut your losses. And please, next year, just buy us a nice bottle of wine." I pocketed my phone, my smile still fixed. "I won't be selling it. I'm restoring it." That statement, simple as it was, silenced them completely. They didn't understand the difference between restoring and renovating. They couldn't grasp the concept of bringing something back to its original glory, enhanced by modern technology, rather than simply replacing it with something new. They saw an old boat. I saw a blank canvas of classic, impeccable design. "It's not just a restoration," I clarified, my voice now low and intense, holding their gaze. "It's a transformation. I'm not just fixing the wood. I'm upgrading everything. Engine, electronics, luxury interior, the works. It's going to be the most beautiful constellation on the eastern seaboard. And when it's finished, you'll all be invited for the maiden voyage." I looked directly at Veronica, the one whose ridicule had been the sharpest. "You might even go pale." The room fell into a tense, charged silence, a temporary ceasefire. They were convinced I was delusional. I knew with absolute certainty that this wreck of a boat was about to be my masterpiece and their reckoning. I had a long, grueling year ahead of me, a year of sawdust, fiberglass, and sleepless nights. But every single swing of the hammer, every coat of varnish, would be fueled by the memory of their arrogant laughter. They saw junk. I saw my glorious revenge. I packed up my belongings, wished them a pleasant rest of the afternoon, and walked out, leaving them to dissect the folly of my $15,000 gift. The first step was finding a proper shipyard. The second step was proving them all spectacularly wrong. The laughter, the sheer volume of their contempt, echoed in my head for weeks, becoming an unlikely source of fuel. It drove me, not with anger, but with an almost pathological desire for perfection. I rented a sizable corner space in an old cavernous boatyard that smelled perpetually of diesel and salt, a world away from my family's pristine, climate-controlled lives. My yacht, which I affectionately nicknamed the Albatross in its dilapidated state, was hauled onto the blocks, looking even more pathetic under the harsh fluorescent lights. The first 6 months were sheer, unadulterated hell. Restoration is a messy, thankless job, far removed from the romantic notion of leisurely sanding and varnishing. It was war against time, decay, and the previous owner's questionable repairs. The initial survey confirmed my worst suspicions and gave credence to my family's ridicule. The boat was rotten. Not just cosmetic rot, but structural, insidious decay that ate into the stringers and bulkheads. The original plan, a gentle overhaul, was scrapped. This wasn't a restoration. It was a rebuild from the keel up, keeping only the lines and the soul of the classic hull. I spent weeks meticulously documenting the Constellation's original structure before the demolition began. I stripped everything. Every piece of hardware, every wire, every panel of wood came out. The cockpit was gutted down to bare ribs. The flybridge, which had already partially collapsed, was carefully dismantled and its framework designated for a complete replacement using modern, stronger composite materials, clad later in mahogany. The stench of mildew, old gasoline, and rot was overwhelming. But underneath it all, I could see the perfection of the original Chris-Craft design, the elegant, sweeping, sheer line that defined the late 60s powerboats. My life became a blur of boatyard dust and late-night research. I found a specialist marine engineer who, initially skeptical, became intrigued by my commitment to preserving the classic look while integrating cutting-edge technology. He helped me source a pair of brand-new, high-efficiency turbocharged diesel engines. This was perhaps the first major turning point, the first real investment that separated my joke from a viable, high-performance vessel. The old gas-guzzling engines were ripped out, a messy, oil-soaked job that left me bruised and exhausted. Installing the new diesels required custom fabricating new engine beds, perfectly aligning the shafts and completely re-engineering the exhaust system. The cost was astronomical, easily 5 times what I had initially paid for the whole boat. But the leap in performance and reliability would be worth every penny. During this period, my family naturally stayed in touch, their calls always punctuated by thinly veiled inquiries. "How's the little boat coming, Mark?" Uncle Robert would ask, his tone dripping with mock concern. "Are you still playing with your toys?" I kept my answers vague and deliberately boring. "Lots of sanding, still working on the hull integrity," I'd reply. I didn't send them any photos. I wanted the reveal to be total, a shock that landed with the force of a hammer. I was building a monument to my own quiet capability, and they were not allowed to preview the blueprint. The real transformation began with the hull. After stabilizing the structural integrity, I moved on to the exterior finish. Sanding the old paint and varnish down to the bare wood was a meditative process, revealing the beautiful grain of the mahogany underneath, darkened by decades of neglect. This was followed by layer after layer of marine epoxy saturation, turning the porous wood into a rock-hard, waterproof shell, the true backbone of the yacht. I then applied the flawless, high-gloss white topside paint, not a cheap spray job, but an elaborate, multi-stage application that gave the hull a mirror finish that seemed to shimmer even in the low light of the boatyard. Then came the second turning point, the interior. My family lived in homes designed by decorators who favored cold, minimalist modernism. I wanted the opposite. I envisioned a classic interior, warm and rich, but with every modern comfort subtly integrated. I commissioned a master cabinet maker to craft custom cabinetry using South American teak inlaid with subtle lines of light maple. The galley, kitchen, was fitted with top-of-the-line induction cooktops and concealed under-counter refrigeration units, giving it the look of a sleek, built-in bar rather than a boat kitchen. Every wire, every pipe, every ventilation duct was hidden behind beautifully finished panels. I installed a state-of-the-art navigation suite, radar, GPS plotter, autopilot, all integrated into a minimalist custom-built console on the flybridge. The old crumbling canvas top was replaced by a sleek custom-fabricated hardtop with integrated lighting and sound system. By the 9th month, the albatross was gone. Standing in its place was a vessel that still carried the majestic lines of the 1968 Constellation, but its surfaces shone, its engines purred, and its interior whispered of bespoke luxury. I was getting close. I had sunk over $300,000, 600 hours of my own labor, and every ounce of my obsessive focus into this project. The final 2 months were dedicated to the details: the custom leather upholstery, the hand-stitched marine canvas, the installation of a new anchor windlass system, and the meticulous re-chroming of all the original brass fittings, the little details that scream luxury. I even sourced and installed the original Chris-Craft brass logo plates, polished to a blinding sheen. The boat was now ready. It wasn't just a restored antique, it was a bespoke, modern performance yacht disguised as a classic masterpiece. It was a $1 million vessel, and it was time to issue the invitation. The invitation was a simple printed card, mailed the old-fashioned way, deliberately free of any pictures of the boat. It simply read, "You are invited to the maiden voyage of the Constellation. Saturday, July 12th, 10 a.m., Pier 5, Marina del Rey." I knew the minimal details would cause maximum speculation. They had spent the last year assuming I had quietly abandoned my foolish project, or perhaps spent another year sanding a rotting piece of trim. The family text chain, usually reserved for comparing quarterly bonuses, immediately lit up. My mother called, her voice tight with curiosity and apprehension. "Mark, are you sure about this? Is the boat safe? Your father says those old wooden boats are notorious for taking on water." I assured her it was more than safe. I told her the structural integrity was stronger than any fiberglass production boat on the market. She remained unconvinced. The others, however, were more pragmatic, or perhaps more skeptical. Uncle Robert texted me directly. "Pier 5, Mark? Isn't that where the charter fleet docks? Are you chartering a boat for the day to save face? Don't worry, we won't tell anyone." His presumption was exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to arrive expecting failure, or at best, an embarrassing rental substitution. I replied with a single, cryptic emoji, the winking face. The day of the launch was perfect. Clear blue sky, a gentle breeze, and the dazzling Southern California sun reflecting off the polished white hull. I arrived early, impeccably dressed in linen, feeling a buzz of anticipation that was almost unbearable. I walked the length of the boat, checking every knot, every cushion, ensuring every champagne flute was perfectly aligned. The Constellation, now officially renamed the Legacy, was tied up discreetly, nestled between two much larger, but frankly, less elegant, modern yachts. The Legacy was breathtaking. The mahogany gleamed with 15 coats of high-gloss varnish, looking deep and rich, like liquid amber. The new chrome gleamed like jewelry against the pristine white hull. The bronze Chris-Craft lettering shone proudly on the stern. The new twin turbo diesels were silent when off, but when running, they had a low, confident rumble that spoke of immense, controlled power. The transformation was so complete that even I, who had lived the rebuild, occasionally had to take a step back and appreciate the miracle of its rebirth. Exactly at 10 a.m., my family arrived. They pulled up in their usual cavalcade of luxury vehicles, a black Mercedes S-Class, a white Porsche Cayenne, and Veronica's ubiquitous, unnecessarily large Range Rover. They stepped out, blinking in the sunlight, looking around the pier with confusion. They expected to see me standing next to a dinghy or perhaps a mid-range sailing yacht. Instead, they saw the Legacy. They didn't recognize it. How could they? The only Constellation they had ever seen was the rotting, moss-covered hulk I had shown them on my phone. They scanned the dock, their expressions a mixture of impatience and vague disappointment. They were looking for the punchline, the embarrassing failure. My father was the first to speak, frustration creeping into his voice. "Mark, where are you? And where is this boat of yours? We don't have all day." I stepped onto the aft deck of the Legacy, right next to the gleaming teak cap rail, and gave a small, polite wave. "Right here, Dad. Welcome aboard." The collective pause that followed was the most satisfying silence I have ever experienced. It wasn't just a pause, it was a total system shutdown. They stopped mid-step, mid-sentence, their expensive sunglasses obscuring the initial shock, but not the sudden rigidity of their posture. They looked at the boat, sleek, powerful, expensive, then at me, then back at the boat. Uncle Robert was the first to recover, his face completely pale. He gestured at the beautiful yacht. That can't be it. That's a new build. Custom. "Mark, did you charter this? Whose vessel is this?" "It's mine, Uncle Robert," I confirmed, stepping down onto the dock to meet them. "And it's the same 1968 Chris-Craft Constellation I showed you a year ago. Just improved." Veronica approached the boat slowly, as if it might bite. She reached out and touched the flawless, mirror-like mahogany side. She was looking for a seam, a patch of paint, a flaw that betrayed its origins. Finding none, her polished facade started to crack. "It's impossible," she murmured, her voice stripped of all its usual arrogance. "That wreck, it had hull damage." "It did," I agreed pleasantly. We replaced the damaged sections with reinforced, laminated mahogany, and then encased the whole thing in marine epoxy. It's better than new. My father stood frozen, his eyes wide as he took in the scale and quality of the restoration. He saw the teak deck, the custom hardtop, the flash of expensive brass. He was a successful businessman. He could estimate the cost of this vessel simply by looking at the quality of the materials and the labor involved. His face, usually ruddy with confidence, was now genuinely pale, the blood draining away as the true scope of my achievement sank in. His laughter from a year ago, the aggressive, dismissive sound, was suddenly revealed as grotesque stupidity. They hadn't laughed at a fool. They had laughed at a master craftsman and underestimated his ambition. The true power of the moment wasn't the boat's beauty, but the dawning realization of their own profound error. The moment had arrived, and they were officially, gloriously, turning pale. The initial shock had transformed into a complicated, uncomfortable mix of awe and embarrassment. They stood on the dock, shifting their weight, clearly struggling to reconcile the sophisticated yacht before them with the junk I had described. My father, always the one to regain control through business speak, tried to pivot. "Mark, this is extraordinary. The attention to detail is truly professional. What kind of shipyard did you hire? They must charge a fortune for this level of finish." "I am the shipyard, Dad," I corrected him gently. "I did 90% of the labor myself. The engine installation and the heavy fiberglass work were contracted out, but the joinery, the finishing, the electronics integration, that was me. It was a personal project, remember? The realization that this bespoke luxury wasn't outsourced to some high-end firm, but was the result of my hands, my planning, and my overlooked skill seemed to deepen their discomfort. I gestured toward the gangplank. "Please, come aboard. We have plenty of provisions. We're going out to the Channel Islands." They boarded the Legacy almost reverently, like tourists entering a museum display. They didn't stomp or rush. They carefully placed their feet on the flawlessly laid teak deck, noticing the lack of squeaks or structural give. Veronica, who usually made a beeline for the nearest mirror, was instead running her manicured hand over the polished cap rail, her expression utterly serious. "The cabin access is here," I said, leading them down the companionway. The interior was the real showstopper. It was cool, quiet, and smelled faintly of new leather and polished wood, a stark contrast to the damp, musty smell of the old vessel. The cabin glowed warmly from the indirect LED lighting hidden behind the valances. They stepped onto the plush, custom-woven marine carpet, their eyes wide. Aunt Eleanor let out a small, involuntary gasp. "It's like a gentleman's club," she whispered. The rich teak cabinetry, the buttery cream leather sofa, the perfectly finished hardware, it all spoke of understated wealth and quality that their new money aesthetic simply couldn't touch. I had even installed a state-of-the-art sound system, cleverly concealed behind perforated wood panels, ready to play their favorite classical music, or perhaps something more appropriate for a deep-sea journey. My cousin Veronica walked into the main berth. It wasn't huge, it was a 30-foot boat after all, but it was impeccably appointed. She saw the custom-made mattress, the built-in storage, and the small, recessed flat-screen TV. But what truly got her attention was the head, bathroom. The small space was finished with polished brass fixtures and a custom-molded countertop that mimicked high-end marble. The shower. "Is this real tile?" she asked, touching the small mosaic in the stall. "It's lightweight ceramic, specifically chosen for marine use," I explained. "Everything on this boat was chosen for aesthetics, durability, and weight balance." I was talking about the technical details, but what I was really communicating was, I didn't cut corners. I built this to last, and I built it right. As we were preparing to cast off, Uncle Robert, the skeptic, tried one last attempt to find the flaw. He walked up to the helm station, where I was preparing the electronics. He noticed the array of modern screens. "Where did you hide the wiring, Mark? These navigation systems require yards of cable. I don't see a single loose wire or access panel." "Everything is channeled," I replied, pointing to a small, nearly invisible seam in the dash. "The entire helm console is a single custom piece. The wiring harness is neatly bundled, labeled, and accessible, but completely hidden when the boat is in use." He peered closely, his face millimeters from the polished wood, trying to spot a mistake, a messy wire, a sign of amateur work. His inability to find a flaw was evident in his slow retreat. The laughter was gone, replaced by grudging respect, wrapped in a thick layer of disbelief. I started the engines. The twin diesels caught instantly, settling into a smooth, barely perceptible idle. No smoke, no sputtering, just quiet, powerful readiness. I eased the throttle forward, and the Legacy glided away from the dock with effortless grace, its hull slicing cleanly through the marina water. As we cleared the harbor and I opened the throttles, the boat surprised even me. It planned quickly and smoothly, the powerful engines pushing us to a comfortable cruise speed that felt fast, yet entirely stable. The ride was silent, a testament to the extensive soundproofing I had insisted on. We were moving faster than any other boat of its size in the immediate vicinity, a classic silhouette flying past modern plastic cruisers. I climbed up to the flybridge, leaving them to marvel at the wake and the quiet performance. My father joined me, holding onto the polished stainless steel rail. He looked out over the bow, his shoulders visibly slumping. He wasn't seasick, he was defeated. He finally turned to me, his voice barely a whisper against the wind. "Mark, how much did this cost you, all in? Be honest." I looked out at the horizon, the sun catching the flawless varnish. Honestly, the time, the stress, the sleepless nights, priceless. The materials? Let's just say it's more than the original purchase price of Uncle Robert's new villa. He didn't ask for a specific number. He didn't need to. He understood market value, and he understood quality. The pale color on his face deepened. He realized I hadn't just proven a point. I had achieved a magnificent, undeniable victory of skill and dedication over their shallow materialism. The silence on the flybridge, as we carved a path through the Pacific swells, was heavy with unspoken implications. It wasn't the kind of polite silence that masks boredom. It was the kind that follows a significant, irreversible shift in power dynamics. My father, who had always commanded conversations and boardroom floors, was momentarily rendered speechless by the undeniable physical proof of my competence. The wind whipped his carefully styled hair, and he just stared at the churning blue water, processing the scale of his misjudgment. "You know, Mark," he finally said, his voice husky, "when you told us you bought an old boat for $15,000, we genuinely thought you were joking. We thought you were trying to make a statement, a sarcastic critique of our lifestyle." "It was a statement, Dad," I replied, keeping my eyes fixed on the horizon, navigating by instinct and the integrated GPS plotter. "But it wasn't sarcastic. It was a statement about value. You all value things that are quick, prepackaged, and immediately recognizable as expensive. I value the process. I value history and the dedication required to honor it." This was the core of our long-standing conflict, laid bare on the deck of my magnificent creation. They worshipped the finish line. I revered the marathon. A short while later, we dropped anchor in a secluded, pristine cove off Santa Cruz Island. The water was clear and turquoise, a perfect contrast to the deep blue of the hull. As the boat gently rocked, the family slowly began to interact with the vessel, not as skeptics, but as guests enjoying pure luxury. Veronica, who had retreated to the aft deck with a glass of chilled rosé, found the outdoor shower fixture and, seeing the constant pressurized hot water system, actually let out a sound of genuine surprise. She came back inside, her demeanor slightly softened. "The systems are incredible, Mark. The water pressure is better than my condo. Marine life requires systems that are dependable," I explained. I upgraded the entire plumbing system, added a high-capacity water heater, and installed a redundancy pump. Again, I offered technical details, knowing that the real message was, "This is not fragile." The true turning point in their attitude came when I prepared lunch. I had stocked the galley with gourmet ingredients, and thanks to the high-end induction cooktop and convection microwave, I put together a simple but elegant meal of grilled mahi-mahi and fresh asparagus in under 30 minutes. My mother, usually the critical host, watched me work, fascinated by the functionality of the tiny, perfect space. "This kitchen," she said, running her hand along the seamless teak countertop. "It's efficient. It doesn't waste an inch." "That's good design," I said, serving my father first. "In a small space, every element has to earn its place." As they ate on the flybridge, enjoying the incredible 360-degree view, the atmosphere completely changed. The boat itself became the conversation, but now it was spoken of with genuine appreciation. They were asking technical questions about the fuel economy of the new diesels, the range of the navigation system, and the weight distribution. They were asking not to find fault, but to understand the extent of my achievement. Uncle Robert, the financial hawk, spent an entire hour talking to me about the return on investment. He had switched from ridiculing the $15,000 purchase to marveling at the hundreds of thousands I had added in value, exponentially increasing the boat's worth simply through skilled labor and strategic sourcing. "You didn't just restore a boat, Mark," he finally admitted, shaking his head. "You took a risk on an asset, and you leveraged your unique skill set to generate massive equity. That's not a joke. That's a business model." His admission was the final, total surrender. He didn't just respect the craftsmanship, he respected the financial genius of the move. By calling it a business model, he gave it the only kind of validation my family truly understood. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples, we weighed anchor for the return trip. I was at the helm, feeling the powerful, smooth vibration of the engines beneath my feet. My mother came up and stood beside me, watching me pilot the boat back towards the distant lights of the mainland. "I never believed in you, Mark," she said quietly, her eyes focused on the water. "Not in this. We all wanted you to be in finance, to wear a suit, to chase the easy money. We thought this hands-on work was beneath you. We were wrong." She reached out and placed a hand on my arm, a gesture of sincerity I hadn't felt from her in years. "This boat is magnificent. It's truly a legacy." Her use of the boat's new name was intentional, a final acknowledgement that this vessel represented something more than just wood and engines. It was the legacy of my own independent spirit. The shame of their laughter a year ago was now completely overshadowed by the pride and the stunned silence of the present moment. I had not just restored a boat, I had restored my own standing within the family, using my own hands and my own unique vision. The only thing left now was the aftermath and the true meaning of the gift. As we sailed back into the Marina Channel, under the cover of the evening sky, the lights of the city sparkling on the water, the atmosphere was completely transformed. The previous arrogance and condescension were entirely gone, replaced by a quiet, deep respect. My family wasn't just impressed, they were humbled. They had seen a side of me, the disciplined craftsman, the visionary engineer, the determined individual, that they had dismissed for years. The true moment of reckoning came when we finally tied up at Pier 5. I secured the lines, shut down the purring engines, and the silence descended, profound and absolute. They gathered on the aft deck, waiting for the final words, the closing statement of the day. My father was the one to break the silence. He cleared his throat, adjusting his expensive jacket. "Mark," he began, his voice firmer now, returning to his executive tone. "This is not just a boat. This is a masterful piece of engineering. You have proven yourself, son. I am extremely proud. And regarding the gift," he paused, searching for the right words. "We would be honored to accept this incredible yacht as a shared family asset. I can arrange for a proper slip rental, maintenance contracts, everything." This was the final pivot, the attempt to reassert control and incorporate my achievement back into their system of corporate management and shared luxury. They saw the value, and now they wanted to possess the convenience of it. I smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that held no malice, only conviction. "Thank you, Dad. I appreciate the offer, and I'm glad you finally see the value here." I paused, letting the anticipation build. The time had come to deliver the final, most important twist of the whole story, the ultimate closure to my year of labor. "But there's been a slight misunderstanding about the nature of the gift," I continued, looking directly at each of them. "A year ago, I told you I bought the Constellation as a gift for the family. You laughed. You called it a joke. You dismissed it as a floating pile of termite food. Your reaction, your utter lack of faith, changed the nature of this project for me. I walked over to the custom teak table I had built for the aft deck and picked up a single, large, laminated document. "This boat," I said, holding up the vessel's title and registration papers, "the legacy is not a shared asset. It is not something you will manage, charter, or borrow whenever you feel like it." I looked at my father, then Uncle Robert, and finally at Veronica, whose face had gone from appreciation to confusion and was rapidly shifting toward a familiar shade of angry, protective pale. The Constellation was a gift. It was a gift of a concept, the idea that something old and broken can be restored to something magnificent through dedication. You rejected that concept, and in doing so, you rejected the gift. You rejected me. I placed the papers back down, tapping the boat's registration. I finished the restoration for myself. It was my year-long lesson in commitment, and my quiet revenge for every time you ever laughed at my choices. This vessel is not the family yacht. It is my yacht. My father started to protest, his face flushing with disbelief. "Mark, wait a minute. You invited us on the maiden voyage. I did, I confirmed, because I wanted you to fully experience what you ridiculed. I wanted you to feel the speed, smell the wood, and appreciate the luxury that you insisted was impossible for me to create. This trip was the final proof of concept, and your ticket home is the end of the line. I then presented the actual gift. I reached into the compartment behind the helm and pulled out a small, elegantly wrapped box. I handed it to my father. "This is the gift," I explained. "It's a scale model, built to perfection, of the 1968 Chris-Craft Constellation, before the restoration. A perfect miniature of the joke boat. Keep it on your desk. Let it remind you that the greatest value in life isn't always bought, but often built." The silence was even heavier than before. It wasn't confusion or awe. It was acceptance of a total, unexpected defeat. My family had expected me to conform, to fail, or at best, to meekly share my success. I had done none of the above. I had used their ridicule to fuel an undeniable success, and then I had kept the fruits of that labor for myself. They disembarked one by one, their movements slow and heavy. There were no more booming laughs, no more aggressive sales pitches. Only my mother hugged me tightly, whispering, "You did good, Mark. You did so good." As I stood alone on the deck of the Legacy, watching their taillights disappear, I felt an immense wave of relief and satisfaction. The boat, shining under the marina lights, was more than a vehicle. It was a physical boundary I had finally erected between their expectations and my reality. The restoration wasn't just about wood and engines. It was about reclaiming my own narrative. The next time they wanted to summer on a yacht, they'd have to buy their own. Mine was busy sailing towards its own future, a future built by my own two hands, far from the echoes of their scornful laughter. The lesson was complete, the legacy secured, and I had never felt more truly wealthy.